Hi, my name is Jesus Tolentino, and I'll be talking about the impacts of open source software. Open source software is free and is better than closed software. In my video lecture, I will be discussing the effects and impacts of open source software, the purpose of it, its relationship to data, and how users interact with it. On this page, I will be discussing the purpose of open source software and the problem it solved. On opensource.com, it defines open source software as open source software is software whose source code is available for modification or enhancement by anyone. Source code is the part of software that most computer users don't ever see. It's the code computer programmers can manipulate to change how a piece of software, a program, or application works. The purpose of open source software was to provide a free alternative to proprietary systems. Another goal was for it to become part of business. As you can see in the image in the right, open source fulfilled that goal. A problem OSS solved is that more businesses are using OSS instead of closed software because open source software is free. In the image right here, it has open source software in big words, and then it has other words, but the word that outstands right here is free. In this image right here, there's a keyboard and a button that says open source. This image means if you're clicking on open source, you are taking the fix. But if you don't click on this because you're scared to take a risk, basically if you click on it, you'll know the benefits and the harmful effects. And if you don't, won't know the benefits or harmful effect. And a harmful effect of open source software is that it isn't that reliable. It doesn't have strong central management, so the open source software community has to find a way and provide solutions for errors with software. Without open source software, Androids wouldn't exist. That's the big benefit for Android lovers because some Android lovers only want Androids and no other phones. That also shows they're loyal to open source software. Another benefit is that open source software quickly fixes the problem thanks to the community. And right here on this graph, as you can see, it shows Google Play, basically open source, how it just grew over the years. And it's the green line right here. One open source has good impacts on society. It provides social benefits to society bigger than closed software. Open source software is terrorizing Microsoft's entire software line because it's purely infrastructure in the natural territory of open source. Right here is a survey I gave to 10 of my friends to answer honestly. 90% of them said that open source software has an effect on the world. In my interview, I interviewed a young man and got his opinion about open source software.
Do you think it's good?
Yes, because it's basically a heavy technology, and you really wouldn't be able to use it in Android because it uses open source software.
Alright, last question. What are the impacts of open source software?
But basically changing the world. Every server on the internet has open source software, so open source software runs the internet basically, runs the world basically.
I use this video by using my iPhone 6 and YouTube video editor and then YouTube to publish it. First I used my phone to interview the interviewee and then I recorded my brother using Gmail, which is open source. Then I used YouTube editor to edit and to combine the videos and add transitions and other things like text and background music. And then I used YouTube to publish the video. One other field other than computer science that uses open source software is business. Open source software is emerging at the front of technologies across ranges of markets and industries, and it's replacing organizations. It's a good way for business to gain penetration in their market, and it helps companies keep abreast of technology. And it's also a good tool to promote a company's image and commercial products. Open source software is also making big moves in the healthcare industry. It's creating big analytical tools that helps doctors more effectively aggregate patient data. On this page, I'm going to discuss the technical aspects of open source software. Anybody can interact with open source software. It's really easy. Some people love using open source software and prefer it because they want to be better programmers. When programming open source software, you can use it however you want. Open source software users are able to fix any problems the OSS is having because it's open for everybody. There's lots of ways to interact with OSS. This video right here that I'm pointing at with my mouse shows some programming which relates to open source software. Open source software technology incorporates some of the big ideas, which is internet and algorithms. Without internet, we wouldn't be able to program and fix software problems. Wikipedia is an open source, and without internet, we can't use Wikipedia. And algorithms are also involved because when you're programming, math is being used, which is really basic. On this page, I'll be discussing the relationship to data. Open source consumes data by programming. And when programming, there's a lot of details and it's shorthanded. So not a lot of people understand it. And it transforms data by transforming the detail into data which people can understand to make it easier for them. Because the language of coding is tough to understand. And that's why open source transforms the data so people can understand it easier so they don't have to struggle. Because understanding code is really, really tough if you're not really used to it. And allowing open source to be free produces data because it's being used by tons of people in the world. And open source license allows software to be freely used, modified, and used. The image on the right is a license of open source software. When open source, anyone can take it because it's open to the public. That's a huge data concern because no one wants this stuff to be taken. Who would want this stuff to be taken by a random person? With open source, that can happen. Some open source things like Wikipedia, if you have a login, you can get hacked. That's why they should be like Google and have a two-step verification. If someone tries to sign in your account, they can't because of two-step verification. Open source software doesn't have a data security concern because it doesn't have privacy. And I use coding to write this website. As you can see right here, this is what I use HTML and CSS styles to make this page unique and detailed. Right here is where you can make your page unique and nice. Right here, as you can see, is the bottom. And when you go on the top of my home page, I made this banner by using Pixel Editor. And when you click on it, it takes you right back to my home page. And like I said, I made this banner by using Pixel Editor. And what Pixel Editor is basically that you're allowed to use layers, text to make a banner, or make another image to use. And as you can see right here, this page is a list of my references I used. I mostly use this reference to get all my answers because Wikipedia had lots and lots of information, so why wouldn't I use this with all this information? For more information on the impacts of open source software, click on the link above to go on my main website.